Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this very special edition of No Final Bell, where we, or at least I, Marty, will be recapping Slammiversary from this past Saturday, as this past week, or at least this past weekend, was pretty busy. So not only on Saturday did we have Collision and Battle of the Belts, but we also had Slammiversary, and that is what I am here to discuss with everybody today. So this will drop as well as a main episode on Wednesday, but because we want to keep everything relatively under an hour for No Final Bell, the main episodes, I decided that we're gonna do a short episode, kind of like how Brian does with Out of Turn 4, kind of recapping the events of like what happened in races or whatnot from the past week. So that's what I'm doing with this episode of No Final Bell. I am recapping the events of Slammiversary, first talking about the countdown to Slammiversary, then getting into the main show. So without further ado, we'll get into the countdown. We started with a 6-person tag team match between the Death Dolls and Jody Threat versus Gazelle Shaw, Jay Vidal, and Savannah Evans. And the Death Dolls and Jody Threat, I guess we could call them the Threat Dolls, defeated Gazelle Shaw, Jay Vidal, and Savannah Evans. And then also on the countdown, we had a Digital Media Championship match. Now, my only real gripe is I wish the Digital Media Championship was relegated to something other than the countdown, which is essentially Impact's like pre-show. I wish the Digital Media Championship would actually be a main focus on the main show, but it is what it is. Either way, we had Stripper Kenny King, taking on Joe Hendry. And throughout the match, Kenny King had a lot of help from Sheldon Jean, and especially in the finish of the match, Sheldon Jean helped Kenny King steal the victory and the Digital Media Championship. So yes, with that, Kenny King beat Joe Hendry with the help of Sheldon Jean to become the new Digital Media Champion. That was the first of 5. The first of 5. Right, because, it was... Yeah, so it was 5 championship defenses it was 5 championships altogether at Slammiversary that have changed hands. The first of which was the Digital Media Championship and Kenny King. We will get into the other championship matches and championships that did change hands. So that was on the main show that it changed hands. We start off the main show of Slammiversary with Ultimate X. So it initially was 5 people in the match, but we ultimately got our 6th man in the match, and it was a returning Jake Something. Nice to see Jake Something back in Impact Wrestling. So yes, all 6 participants were Kushida, Speedball Mike Bailey, Alan Angels, Kevin Knight, Jonathan Gresham, and Jake Something. But ultimately, no pun intended, who ended up winning Ultimate X was Kushida. So he will get a future championship opportunity against the X Division champion, which I will get into somewhere down the line. We roll on to the next match here as the Coven defend their Knockouts Tag Team titles against the unlikely pairing, I guess you could say, of Killer Kelly and Masha Slamovich. They were opponents. They are now tag team partners. So they had their dog collar match at Against All Odds, and after that they were seemingly bonded by their love of pain, essentially, if you could call it that. So yeah, with that, it kind of shocked me, to tell you the truth, that we have new Knockouts Tag Team Champions. Yes, the unlikely pairing of Killer Kelly and Masha Slamovich beat the Coven to become the new Knockouts Tag Team Champions. Now, one thing I did want to point out, and I guess I really shouldn't point this out, but Taylor Wilde, what was with that choice of attire? It was like a sheer top and a sheer bra, and she had pasties over her nipples. Like, that was a little weird. But moving on, it was the much anticipated in-ring return of one Scott D'Amore in his hometown of Windsor, Ontario. But the question of the night was, who is his tag team partner? Who? Because as we know, PCO could not, in storyline, team with Scott D'Amore as he was set on fire. So that unfortunately took PCO out of the equation, and Scott D'Amore needed a partner. And on the Impact before Slammiversary, he called somebody and he said, "Hey, PCO can't come back from the dead this time. Can you?" And he took a Team Canada jacket. So people were quick to speculate, and the speculation all came back to, oh, it's going to be Eric Young. It's going to be Eric Young. Like, it's guaranteed at this point, it's Eric Young. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that ultimately turned out to be true. Eric Young returned to Impact Wrestling to take on Diener and Bully Ray. And, it kind of made sense ultimately, because Eric Young and Diener had history, considering Diener was the one who, quote-unquote, killed off Eric Young to essentially write him off to go to WWE, because he was going to be like a producer while there. He was only there for like the better part of a year, if I can really. It was about a year that Eric Young was in the company, and as a producer again, and then he found out that Vince was going to be back in the company and taking over like creative again, and Eric Young was like, yeah, no, I'm not doing this. He didn't want to work under Vince McMahon, and ultimately requested his release, was granted his release, and his 90-day ended, I think they said like last week or the week before. something like that, but he was able to show up at Slammiversary, so that's the most important thing. And so I'm gonna kind of break down the match a little bit. So as the match is going on, it's going on as normal, but at one point during the match, Bully Ray was pushing the referee around and was like, "Hey, disqualify me! Disqualify me! You better disqualify me!" And at that point, the referee just ultimately took off his shirt. He's like, "I'm not doing this anymore," and left it in the ring, basically to mean it basically meant that, like, hey, Darren McCarty, the special enforcer, he has free reign now to officiate this match. And, like, the commentators were, like, kind of confused by that, because, like, they were looking at it as, like, well, what are the rules behind this? Is this legal? I'm like, of course it's legal, because think about it. It's a callback to WrestleMania 14. Mike Tyson was the special enforcer for Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Shawn Michaels. The referee was, like, down on the outside or something, and they went to the finish. Mike Tyson slides into the ring, counts to 3, and Stone Cold becomes WWF champion for the first time. It's completely legal. Like, why are you so confused on commentary? It is completely legal, which is exactly what happened with that. The thing about it is, it was a lot more biased against Bully Ray, with Darren McCarty being the special enforcer and then putting on the referee's shirt and ultimately, like, officiating the match, because he definitely got involved in the finish as well as, like, everything else, because Scott D'Amore and Eric Young also, not only did they do the D-Bon thing, but they also put Bully Ray through a table with a double chokeslam. At least Scott D'Amore and Darren McCarty did. So, and then ultimately, Eric Young hit a elbow drop on Diener from, like, halfway across the ring to get the 1-2-3. So Scott D'Amore and a returning Eric Young beat Diener and Bully Ray with the help of the special enforcer Darren McCarty. This next match, it was weird to me when I first saw it. I'm like, oh, I didn't realize that he was challenging Chris Sabin for the X Division title. Leo Rush versus Chris Sabin for the X Division title. The way that match even, like, went down was shocking in and of itself. So pretty much the match starts, well, pretty much, so before the match even, like, before the bell even rang, Chris Sabin was still coming down doing his entrance. He gets up on the apron. Leo Rush hits him with, like, that springboard thing that, like, Kushida does. Nails Sabin in the face. Then he bounces off the ropes to do a Lope Suicida through the bottom rope. Ends up, like, butting Chris Sabin in the head. Sabin selling it really well, making you think, like, oh shit, he might have a concussion. But nah. I was even watching the match, I'm like, with how many years that Chris Sabin has been in the business, he's probably endured much worse. So then the bell rings. Chris Sabin fends off the doctors and the referee and is like, no, I can go. Like, give me this match. Next thing you know, Leo Rush, like, continues to target the head of Chris Sabin and, like, gives him a drop kick, I think, and, like, twisting enziguri and all that stuff. Then he hits 2 final hours. Well, the first one he went for the cover, Chris Sabin kicked out, but he was still so beat, like his head was just so beat that by the time he kicked out, he was still recovering from his head. And then Lio Rush went back up to the top rope and hit another final hour, and that sealed the deal. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, Lio Rush beats Chris Sabin to become the new X Division champion. The bad child is taking over the X Division in Impact Wrestling. Crazy thing to say, especially in 2023. But, so the next thing that happened was a 4-way tag team match for the Impact Tag Team titles between Subculture, Flash Morgan Webster and Mark Andrews, the team of Moose and Brian Myers, and the team of Sami Callihan and Rich Swann. They were taking on ABC, the Ace and Bay Club, Ace Austin and Chris Bay, the then Impact Tag Team champions. Sorry, spoiler alert. They lost to Subculture. Yes, Subculture beat Moose and Brian Myers, Sami Callihan and Rich Swann, and ABC to become the new Impact Tag Team champions. It was a pretty back and forth contest, a lot of high spots in the match, but ultimately Subculture did beat ABC and the 2 other teams to become Impact Tag Team champions. This next match, like, if you ask me, I feel as though it kind of wasted space on the main card of the show. No disrespect to the performers that were involved, but, like, yeah. If you ask me, this story is kind of, like, played out, and I wish it would just end, because if you ask me, I think there needs to be, I think you could do much better things with Frankie Kazarian in Impact, but it is what it is. Ultimately, it was Eddie Edwards with his wife taking on Frankie Kazarian with his wife. And don't get them mixed up. It's not a mixed tag team. They just had their wives in their respective corners, like, managing them. Interesting little factoid, though, is that was the first time since 2005 that Frankie Kazarian has been managed by his wife, Tracy Brooks. So, yeah. But ultimately, Eddie Edwards beats Frankie Kazarian with the use of a kendo stick while the referee was down. So Eddie Edwards got the 1-up on Frankie Kazarian. This next match went pretty, like, it went at a pretty good time. Like, they gave that match a lot of time, surprisingly. But then again, not surprisingly, considering it's the Knockouts division. Impact Wrestling has always, since like 2005 or 2006, has always given the Knockouts enough time to showcase their talents. And that is exactly what Trinity and Deonna Purrazzo did in their match. If I had to put a number on it, I think that match went about like 15 or 20 minutes. It went a good amount of time. And, I mean, both women got enough of their stuff in to actually, like, warrant a decent match. And, ultimately, in the end, ladies and gentlemen, to all the naysayers out there who said she wouldn't be anything outside of WWE, she has just proven everybody wrong. Ladies and gentlemen, Trinity beat Deonna Purrazzo to become the new Knockouts World Champion. So, like I said, to all the naysayers out there that said that about Trinity and Mercedes Moné, where are you at now? What crap are you talking now about both of those women? Both of those very talented women who have showcased their talents outside of WWE and have both won championships outside of WWE. What are you saying now? Matter of fact, I'm sure it's going to blow your mind even more when you realize that Trinity is the first black woman to hold a women's world championship in both WWE and Impact Wrestling / TNA. Where are you at now, haters? Where are you at now? So enough of that. Getting on to the main event of Slammiversary, the Impact World Championship on the line. Nick Aldis taking on the reigning defending Impact World Champion Alex Shelley. Can he do it? Can Nick Aldis ultimately be the one to dethrone Alex Shelley, making him a transitional champion for the up-and-coming rising star in Nick Aldis? Nope, that did not happen. Alex Shelley was able to overcome the odds and defeat Nick Aldis to retain the Impact World Championship, but the night was not over. The night was not over. After the match, Josh Alexander makes his return from injury and sets his sights on Alex Shelley in the Impact World Championship. He simply said, "I'm back." So, ladies and gentlemen, that was going to conclude this short episode of No Final Bell, even though it's like 22 minutes. I still consider it a short, considering we usually go about like 45 minutes to about an hour. So, and there's a lot of wrestling content to cover, and that's why I did a separate episode from the main episodes of No Final Bell so that I could get enough talk in for Slammiversary, not have to kind of just go through it at a rapid pace like Excalibur does when he's trying to promote like all these AEW events. Sorry, shots fired at Excalibur, but so yes, stay tuned to No Final Bell on Wednesday. We will be covering all AEW with Collision, Dynamite, and Battle of the Belts. So, like I said, keep your eyes peeled to that. We will be right here on No Final Bell on Wednesday. If you are not following us on social media, make sure to follow us right there at Tinkle Sports. Make sure to stay tuned to this channel right here, Tinkle Sports and Entertainment. We have all types of great content, including this show, No Final Bell, every Wednesday at 5 p.m. We have Out of Turn 4 every Tuesday at 5. We have Sunday Morning Tinkle every Sunday at 9 a.m., but currently on hiatus. It will return in August. Stay tuned for that. But until next time, this has been Marty for No Final Bell. I will catch you in the next one. Goodbye, everyone.